Hello and welcome to Paper Plays Julie K. This is a design team tutorial for Kraft Supplies for You. I will be sharing with you the process of how I decorate a shadow box using supplies from Kraft Supplies for You. Before we get going on this project, I am going to go through the supplies that I'm using for this project, along with all the gorgeous Kraft Supply for You laces, trims, and embellishments that we will be using on our project today. And to begin with, you will need to choose a type of paper. And so I have gone ahead and picked out some paper from the Love Story Prima collection. You, of course, also need some sort of shadow box, and this is the shadow box that I chose. I have already gone ahead and prepped it a little bit, which I will talk about more in a minute, but just so you know, choose some sort of shadow box. You will also need glue for our project today, and the different glues that I will be using is tacky glue, Fabri-Tac glue, which is a great glue for laces and trims. I will be using just a little bit of Glossy Accents, and I will also be using a hot glue gun. You also need just some of your basic supplies like a scissors, a paper cutter, ruler, just those kind of things. I'm also choosing to use a little bit of ink, and for today's project I chose this distress ink that's called Victorian Velvet. I'm also going to be using this chalk paint. It's acrylic paint. The next items that you will need for our project today are some fabric flowers and paper flowers, parchment flowers, ribbon roses, just those kind of things. And the majority of the flowers sitting here are Kraft Supplies for You, and I'll just kind of go through the ones I will be using. And I picked these out because I felt they matched the paper collection quite well. Here's some parchment ones that you can purchase at Kraft Supplies for You. She does have these in different colors, but this is a mauve pink color. I also have some more of these little more rosebud type parchment flowers. And these are in pink, so I will be using those. I also have some paper flowers. And these are rosebuds. This is the white ones. And then these are the two-tone pink ones. I also had these little pink ones from Kraft Supplies for You. And then I also originally had some white ones, but I have run out from Kraft Supplies for You, so I did grab some other ones from my stash, which are these ones that I will be using. Then I have quite a few fabric flowers that I picked out, and again, all these are from Kraft Supplies for You. And currently, she does have at Kraft Supplies for You, the store owner, Julie, does have some grab bags where you can get like a grab bag full of fabric flowers, which would be awesome for different projects like this. But here's some white ones that I chose. I love these ones also that Kraft Supplies for You sells. These are awesome little filler flowers. I did pick out these ones also. And I may or may not use these, but I did grab them as an option. And then I also really love these ones right here from Kraft Supplies for You. I think these ones are just elegant and gorgeous, so for sure I will be using at least one of those on the project today. For today's project, you will also need some different embellishments, and I have pulled out some of my embellishments from my stash and also ones from Kraft Supplies for You, and I'll just share those with you real quick. I will be using one of these cherubs, and these do come from Kraft Supplies for You. I will also be using this butterfly. It is kind of the cream or white color butterfly from Kraft Supplies for You. I will be using a charm, and I'm going to be using these little key ones, and again, these are from Kraft Supplies for You. I will also be using a cabochon, or a metal piece, and Julie has all sorts of different options in her store, and this is one of my favorites that she has. It has the cute little birds on top, and they do come in the bronze color, but if you want to shabby it up a little bit, you can paint over it with some gesso paint like I did here. And I'm not quite sure which version I'll be using in today's project, but one of those two I will be using. In Julie's store at Kraft Supplies for You, she also carries all sorts of wonderful bling and different embellishments such as these. And these are both from her store, and I will be using one of these in today's project. I just haven't decided yet which one. I will also be using an acrylic flower in today's project, and this is the exact same flower, but this one I went ahead and just painted over with a light pink. I just wanted to see what it looked like, so I just wanted to share that with you guys, that you can paint over these also. I will also be using one of these adorable little hearts that Kraft Supplies for You carries. And then a couple things from my stash. I will be using this little cameo piece, but if you are looking for cameos, I know Julie at Kraft Supplies for You does sell some cameos. I will be using this little wood piece. and it says Cherish, and I already went ahead and painted it with some gesso paint. I'm also going to be using some laces or trims or beads in my project today. And for sure I will be using this gorgeous flat back pearl trim that Kraft Supplies for You carries. And then I will also be using some trim from Kraft Supplies for You, or some lace. And this is the one I'm going to be using today, is this one right here. And I have this remnant left over from before, but I do have a little bit more of it. And then also on these are all Kraft Supplies for You too, but I think I'm going to be using this little heart one. I just love this one. I also will be using some sort of bead spray. I might use all of these or just a couple of them. I haven't decided yet. But again, all of these you can purchase at Kraft Supplies for You. A couple more things that I will most likely be using in my project today is I do have some little remnants left over from past Kraft Supplies for You projects from a collar applique. And I think I will be using one or both of these in today's project. And so I just wanted to share those with you guys. I did grab some glass glitter. I had a couple of people ask me how I glitter my flowers, so I will show you how to glitter a couple of flowers. So I did pull this out of my stash just to show you guys. I do have some little flower stamens from my stash that I use quite a bit, and so I will probably be using those in today's project, so I did pull those out. And then the last item that I pulled out that I will most likely be using is I have a whole bunch of little flat back pearls, and I often use these in my projects, so I did grab some of these just in case I use them. So to begin this project, the first thing you want to do is take your shadow box. You are going to want to paint it. You don't have to, but I did go ahead and I did one layer of gesso, which is basically white acrylic paint. And then I went over it with this chalk paint. And this just has a little bit more of a shabby or vintage feel to it. And the color of this is called Plaster. So I did go ahead and I painted that, the back and the tops and the sides and on the inside. I did not paint everything just because I am going to put some paper over it. So I didn't have to paint everything. So you guys can do that. And I just went ahead and did that before I started filming just to save time. And so while that is drying, you guys can work on the next couple of steps after you're done painting that. The first thing is you are going to want to cut your paper to fit inside of here. So I did cut paper that will fit in the inside of my shadow box, also the back side. And then I also went ahead and cut paper for the top, the bottom, and the outsides. For this project today, I'm choosing just to leave my inside kind of this white shabby color. But if you want, you can also cut paper to fit on the insides if you want. You don't have to do that. And so after you've cut the paper, then the next step is to ink your edges of your paper. And I've done most of them other than one. So I will go ahead and do that one with you guys real quick. And so I am just using, again, Victorian Velvet from the Tim Holtz Distress ink. And I just like to use a little applicator. If you guys don't own one of these, you can easily use like a makeup sponge. That works great too for inking. Or even in a pinch, I've actually just even used like a clean like kitchen sponge. And that works great too if you don't have the little distress or blender tool. And I just rub it on my edges like this, and it just kind of blends in the paper and makes it stand out a little bit. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to. I just like the look of my edges inked, so I usually do it on pretty much any paper project I do. So the next step that we are going to do is just prep a couple of things, and this one I'm just doing just because I had a couple of people ask about the glass glitter and how to glue it onto your flowers. So I chose this gorgeous mauve flower, again from Kraft Supplies for You, and I will be using Glossy Accents, and then again just some glass glitter that I had from my stash, and it's just really chunky glitter. And I believe this one actually is glass, but you could also use chunky glitter if you don't have the glass glitter. And so what I like to do is take the Glossy Accents, and I just run the Glossy Accents around just some of the edges on the petals. So I have the Glossy Accent right there. And it takes a little bit for the Glossy Accents to dry, so usually I just kind of do the whole flower and then I dump the glass glitter over it. And again, I'm just going over just the top little edges. You don't have to go through all of them, just wherever you think you want a little bit of the glass glitter to show. So there's what I have. And then I just take my glass glitter and make sure you have a piece of scratch paper or something underneath it. And I just dump it onto my flower. And then I shake it upside down, and I have like a little piece of fuzz that I got to get rid of that's in here. There we go. And if you missed a couple spots, just go back in and dump a little more. And so that's basically what it looks like. That's basically what it looks like. And so it'll dry, and it'll dry clear. Right now there's a little haze to the Glossy Accents, but it will dry clear. And it looks really cute when it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other two flowers just like that. And then one other thing I'm going to do just so it has a chance to dry is I did decide to go ahead and use the cabochon metal piece that is bronze that I painted with some gesso. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue my little cameo in the middle. You could also choose to use, if you don't have cameos, you could also choose to like find an image from your paper stash and glue it in there. And so I'm just using the Glossy Accents, and I'm just going to glue that in also right now to dry. So again, these are all just kind of prep things that you can do to get ready for decorating. One more piece of prep work that I decided I wanted to do is I do have this wood embellishment piece that says Cherish that I painted earlier with just some white gesso. But I do think I want to add a little bit of color, and then I want to go over it with Glossy Accents. And so I'm going to do that so it has some time to dry before I glue it onto my project. And so I'm just going to be taking that same Victorian velvet ink and my distress tool, and I'm just going to rub my ink over it. You could of course just paint it pink or a color like that, but I find once I've done the gesso, it's just as easy just to rub some ink over it, and it goes a lot faster with a little bit faster drying time. The more ink you apply, the darker it is going to get. So I just do a couple coats of this pink. And I'm just going to hold it up to the paper, and I think that looks actually pretty good. So I'm going to leave it there. And then the other item that I'm going to do is go ahead and take my Glossy Accents, and I'm just going to go over it, the whole word with it. And this will just make it stand out a little bit more on the final project once the Glossy Accent dries. So that's kind of what it looks like, and I'm just going to set that aside to dry. Once everything has dried, you can start the fun part. At least for me, the fun part is decorating our shadow box. And so again, I already had my paper cut and edged with ink. And so I am going to glue that in. And I'm just kind of deciding how I want that to look. I think I'm going to put that one there. And I just like to use tacky glue for this part. You don't need a ton of tacky glue. I usually just go around my edges. And then I just do a couple swipes in the middle. And the reason why you don't want to put a ton of glue is sometimes if you put too much glue, it makes the paper really wet and your paper can wrinkle. And so I find a lot of times that less is more with the glue for working. So I'm just going to glue that in here. and attach it down really good. So that's what we have so far. I'm going to go ahead and do the back side. And this is why I like to paint my outsides, because I do cut my paper a little bit smaller, so then there's a nice little border around it. Again, you don't have to do that, but I will go ahead and glue it the exact same way. So now I have finished gluing down all my edges, and again, I'm choosing not to add any paper on the inside, but if you guys want to, you can certainly do that. The next step is I'm going to be taking my flat back pearl trim from Kraft Supplies for You and attaching it to the edge of my box. And I do like to use hot glue for this. So here's what we have so far. I've gone ahead and edged my box with a flat back pearl trim. Next, I am going to do some more edging with some trims, and I didn't show this in the supply list just because I remembered I still had some left, but this is a newer trim from Kraft Supplies for You that I did get in my design team package, and I did use some of it on another project. So I don't have quite a bit enough to do the whole box, but I am going to use this and edge it on the inside of the box. And then I do like to edge my tops and my sides and my back. And then so for that, I'm going to be using this trim from my stash for that. So here's what we have so far. I just love that trim. It's so cute. And it just edges everything so nicely. It goes very well with this paper. I'm very happy with that. So next, I'm going to go ahead and use this trim from my stash. If I had more of this trim, this is really cute. I probably would have gone ahead and used this on the whole box, but I don't have, this is all I have left, so it's not enough to go around the whole box. So again, I'm just going to use this. And I'm going to use the Fabri-Tac. So here's the top so far. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the box, and I will be right back. So I just finished edging all of my sides with that white trim. I did all 4 sides. I also did the back side. And then on the inside, I decided to go ahead. I still had a little bit of that pink rosebud trim left that I am in love with. And so I did go around 3 sides. I didn't have enough to go all the way. But so I did the 2 sides and then the top inside. I'm going to do something different down here, which we'll go ahead and do that right now. But I just wanted to show you guys that. I really love this pink trim. It's really highlighting this paper very nicely. So I did take some of this Kraft Supply for You trim, and I'm going to use this kind of as a base in my shadow box. And I'm going to glue that down on the inside. Next, I'm going to take some flat back pearls that I have in my stash, and I'm just going to add them to the inside corners. And for this, I'm just going to use hot glue. I'm also going to take the Cherish word that I painted and added the Glossy Accents to earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and also glue that down on the inside. And I'm just going to use my Fabri-Tac glue for that. You can use the hot glue if you want. So again, this is my bottom right here, so I want this word to kind of show up towards the top. So I'm just going to give that a minute to kind of dry and set up. My next step is to decorate and add some flower sprays on the inside, and hopefully this view will kind of work for you guys. So I do like to start off with some sort of beads, a bead spray. I do love this one that I just picked up on my design team package, so I am going to go ahead and use this one. And so I am going to put it in the corner here. So I find the best way is to use hot glue for these. And so what I'm going to do is just put a big glob, literally, because it is going to get covered up with other flowers. And I'm going to set that inside of the big glob, and I'm going to try and get this on camera the best I can. But hopefully you can kind of see it's kind of a big glob of hot glue in there. And I am going to just hold it in place while it dries. I'm also going to put a little hot glue over the top of it. Once it dries, I can do a little bit more rearranging of the pieces in here. So while that's kind of drying, I'm going to pick out my next flowers. I do want to use this one for sure. And then some of these. Okay, it's still drying a little bit, but I think I can get going on this. And then I also have some green leaves, and I pulled these leaves off of these flowers, just so you know. And I think I'm going to lay some of these down first to peek out. So I'm going to set that in there, and there's still a little bit of hot glue that hasn't dried in there, so it's going to stick down fairly well. So I'm just going to stick that in there like that. And then I'm going to stick this one in, and I'm just going to glue it. It did have a flower, it did have a stem, and I took that off already. I'm just using this part of it. So that's what we have so far. Now I'm going to go ahead and add these ones that we put the glass glitter on. I am going to have to cut off part of the stems here. So I'm going to glue that right back here, like that. And you can either just put a little bit of glue down here or just on the flower. Whatever works best for you or easiest. I'm just going to add it to the flower because it's a little bit tough. I'm trying to have an angle here where you guys can see what I'm doing. And you're just going to set that down in there wherever it makes you happy. And then I'm going to set this one, I think, like that. So now we got a nice little start to a nice little cluster of flowers going on right there. I'm going to add some of these rosebuds. Again, these are like the two-tone ones from Kraft Supplies for you. So I'm just going to kind of sneak them in between some of the flowers in here. If it's tough for you, you can always grab a tweezers also and use that to hold on to your flowers if that works better for you. And so I'm just going to kind of sneak that in there. Like that. And I think I'm going to add one more in here if I can sneak it in or not. I don't know, we'll see. So that will work, except I just need to cut off a little bit more of the stem. So we'll just cut that off to make it fit better. So that's what we have so far. So I do have some of these pink parchment ones from Kraft Supplies for you that I'm going to add next. I have some of the white rosebuds from Kraft Supplies for You that I'm going to be adding in here also. Next, I'm going to add some flower stamens real quick, and these I just, instead of using them as actual middle pieces for my flowers, I just use them as decorative pieces. And those are just from my stash. And I'm going to stick a couple, I think, right in here, some on the end, and then if I can fit them in, some right up here. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of bending them in half. I think I'm just going to leave it like that for now. And then I'm going to add a couple of these really pretty pink flowers from Kraft Supplies for You, these paper ones. I'm going to put one right here. And then I'm going to put one back there also, for sure. So that's what we have so far. Nice little flower cluster, flower spray in the corner right there.